Hello everyone. It's been a while. Let me get to my channel on my phone so I can see everybody's comments. Let's skip that. There we go. Hello, Joe B. Joe B. I don't know if are you the same guy on Facebook who goes by Joe EB? I'm curious because I don't know for sure, but I am curious. Gosh. Hello, Aaron. Hello, Irving. Hello, Nathan. So, as you guys can probably tell, I'm actually not feeling that well. I hope you can hear me too, because I can't talk very loud. But, when I got back from my New Orleans trip, I was on the plane, and, I was on the plane on the way back, and there were a lot of people coughing and sneezing and stuff, and I had this feeling like I'm gonna get sick. And then I did. I got this really bad flu. It was really bad. I couldn't get out of bed for 4 days. It wasn't until Wednesday I was able to get out of bed. Because I was so weak. And then after that, Thursday, Friday, even today, I'm out of bed, but I'm still... The chat's not keeping up. Oh, Joe B says I'm not. Okay, just wondering. Daniel says, I hope that's a cup of Cafe Du Monde coffee. No, it's not. It's some Twinings ginger lemon tea for my throat. But basically, last 3 days I've had this really bad cough due to a post-nasal drip, so I've been taking all kinds of stuff for that. So I have not felt at all 100%. Yesterday I couldn't even talk because I was coughing so badly. Couldn't even breathe either. I was coughing so badly that it was triggering other, I would cough, then breathe, and then it would trigger more coughing. So, and even right now, I'm not doing very well. So I had, I had, been to the doctors. They told me it was just a really bad flu that has a post-nasal drip that's irritating my throat. I have this, Mucinex, a extra super strength kind of thing. I've been drinking that down. It's weird. I've never seen it before. It's like a white bottle with all these labels and stuff on it, but it's like Mucinex brand. But anyway, really powerful stuff, but it suppresses the desire to cough. So I'd actually be coughing a lot more now without it. But, yeah, so... Daniel says, Twinings is good enough. I'm British, my blood type is T. I'm waiting for this to cool down so I can drink it, otherwise I'd scald myself, because I just made it right now. So, I apologize for those that have to hear my coughing. You don't have to stay behind and watch this live stream if you don't want to hear me cough. But I thought I'd give you guys an explanation of why I've been missing for so long. Because I think a lot of people would be like, okay, you came back from this New Orleans trip, and a week afterwards, you're completely missing from the light. Some people would probably, conspirize that I'd probably died or something. But no, I mean, I'm okay. Linda says, sorry you're sick. Glad you didn't get sick until after the trip. How's your dad doing? My dad's doing better. He had he had a similar flu. He had a similar flu. Yeah. It's hard to talk, sorry. But he's doing good. He's at work now. He's got a slight cough, but not like mine. Mine is just unbelievable. But yeah. So you're probably wondering what was the trip like, and it was really good overall. I had a lot of fun. I was hanging out with. So the people on the trip was me, my father, my friend Shiloh, and his mother Martina, and then my friend Chris. We had booked, all of us had booked the same hotel, the Inn on St. Anne, and Shiloh and his mom, they got a separate room, but me, my dad, and Chris, we pooled our money together to get a suite. And that has a story of its own. Wasn't much of a suite. It was cool because it was like a 200-year-old building. I mean, it dated back to the 1830s at least. It was a type of Creole cottage or townhouse. No, cottage. Yeah, I think you could call it a cottage. And it was a beautiful, in terms of architecture, a beautiful building. But definitely quite old, the building. Because it's like, this isn't a complaint. This is an interesting aspect. Was that the corner of the building was sinking down into the ground, which is normal for New Orleans because all that soil used to be soggy, and as if you watched one of my videos, I talked about how as the water has been pumped out of the city over the years, it dries out the land, which causes all of it to settle. Even the French Quarter is still settling, and so the Creole cottage at the corner was tilting down into the ground. So when you got to the upper floor where we were, there was a very significant slant in the floor that, scarily enough, slanted towards the stairs. So if you weren't careful and you were wearing very slippery socks, there was a chance that if you weren't careful, you could slide down to the stairs. So, and the stairs were very steep. Very old-fashioned, very lower to middle class stairs, which means it wasn't a grand staircase. Let's see if this is cool enough yet. Oh, that feels so good. Nice ginger lemon tea. Instantly felt better. So the floor slanted. We tested that out with Chris's rolling luggage. Put it on one side of the room, just set it there, and it rolled to the other side immediately. So it was interesting in terms of architecture. It's interesting because the way the cottage was built is that it was designed for two families, so it was split down the center, even though it looks like one house. And so there would be a lower, like a ground floor level with a kitchen and stuff like that, although that was converted to its own hotel room. And then our room was the second level, and we still use the original stairs to get to the second level. And on the second level, there was a main bedroom where my dad slept because it had the only, like, actual bed. And he needed that for his back, so he slept in that room. The living room had a sofa bed, so it was a couch that pulled out to a bed. That's where Chris slept. And my room was supposed to be what was called the petite room. It was a small room next to the bathroom. And online it was advertised to have a twin bed. So I was going to sleep there. Unfortunately, when we got to the hotel, we learned that it didn't have a twin bed. That the website had never been updated. And they had no way to accommodate a third bed in that room, you know, for me. Like, they didn't have an extra mattress, nothing. They didn't have anything. They had... At first, I asked if I could get some extra comforters and pillows and blankets to make myself a bed on the floor. Sorry. I had asked if I can get pillows and blankets and stuff to make a bed on the floor for myself. And the guy, the front desk guy, Gary, he was like, oh, we don't have pillows and blankets. I said, yeah. And you don't have a maintenance guy who can bring like a rollaway bed or something? He's, oh, we don't have a maintenance guy. And then like, not 5 minutes later, a maintenance guy walks in and offers to give us pillows, blankets, and towels and all this extra stuff that Gary said they didn't have. So I'm pretty sore about that because it literally felt like he just lied to our faces right there. Especially after learning that they didn't have the twin bed like was advertised online. Imagine getting there and realizing you don't have anywhere to sleep, you know? So I had to sleep on the floor the whole time. Chris did offer me to switch. He offered for me to sleep on the sofa bed and he would move to the floor. But that hotel was my idea. Nobody else wanted to stay there originally. It was my idea because I said, I want to stay in the French Quarter. I want to stay in a really old building. And everybody else is kind of like, well, there's cheaper places outside the French Quarter. So, so I feel like I had made everybody book rooms at that hotel. So it was my cross to bear to sleep on the floor, not theirs. And, you know, that old saying, you've made your bed, now sleep in it. So that's kind of why I decided to stay on the floor. And so, other than the hotel and the lack of hot water at the hotel, there was no hot water. It was a good trip. We did a lot of stuff. First night after arriving, the first thing we did was, well, we waited for Shiloh and his mom to arrive because they had a later flight, and we didn't want to split up, you know. So we waited for them to arrive. They got their room. And then afterwards, we went for a walk around the French Quarter. Because it was very late. It was like 8 p.m. None of the attractions or museums were open at all. So really all you could do on the first night was just walk around and just get your bearings. And, you know, and then we went to get something to eat. And so we ate at a place on Bourbon Street. It was like a Creole kind of restaurant. I don't remember what it was called, but I got an alligator po' boy, and I think Chris got a whole bunch of different Cajun food. I don't remember what anybody else had. Because Chris was right next to me, so I remember what he ate. But yeah, it was great. And then we stayed up late into the night because we went up to the river. Because, you know, there's a levee that separates the French Quarter from the river. So we climbed up onto that because there's a set of stairs and all that. It's like a park. And that was cool. We saw the Steamboat Natchez right there. It was docked for the evening. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. I mean, the first night there, we were just like in awe. you know, like, we're actually here, you know. It was just amazing. And then we went, you know, to sleep. We went to our hotel. Because I was on the floor, I never slept more than 2 hours per night. So I was in a constant state of sleepiness through the whole trip. But I stayed awake due to all the walking we did. Daniel says, the thing I found amazing was as I landed in New Orleans airport was the jazz being played at the lobby of the airport as we waited for a car. Yes, I heard the jazz as well. They had it playing on the speakers. It was really cool. And it was a brand new airport. The terminal was brand new. Well, I say brand new, but I think it opened in 2019. But it was nice. It was clean. It was nice. So yeah. Second day, we woke up early. I don't remember what we had, but I have a vlog of it, of course. I filmed everything. So, I mean, I want to say we had Cafe Beignet. Cafe Beignet is... We went to the original. There's several. Just like Cafe Du Monde. Cafe Du Monde is the original coffee and beignets place. But they're also kind of a franchise around the city. So they have several different Cafe Du Mondes around the city, including the original. Cafe Beignet is the same. They have an original on Royal Street. I want to say Royal Street and Toulouse, but I don't remember properly. And it's near the old Louisiana courthouse. That's where the original Cafe Beignet is, but it's on Royal Street. And then they have several other locations around the French Quarter as well. But we went to eat at the original because it's this beautiful little... It looks like a French pastry shop. I mean, it was an old little building, and we suspected it looked like some kind of horse stable. Like it could have been a horse stable a long time ago, but was transformed into a little cafe. Oh, jeez. You're coughing, right? Daniel says, did you go to Napoleon House? No, unfortunately. We didn't have the time or the budget. We were on a very shoestring budget. It was mostly like takeout places, but we found really good takeout places. Like, there was one called Nola Po' Boy on Bourbon Street, and it's all the way at the end. But it's good because it's this hole-in-the-wall kind of place, but they had the most delicious food. Oh my god, like, I want to say out of the whole trip, that little po' boy place had the best food we had on the entire trip. It was so good. But it was just a little takeout place. So it was nice, you know, it was really cool. But we did eat at some nice places. One of them was, we ate at the, well, me, my dad, and Chris ate at the Court of Two Sisters. They have a brunch buffet. So we did that at noon on the third day. And that was magical. I don't know if you guys know this. I used to work at the restaurant called the Blue Bayou at Disneyland in California. And Walt Disney himself was inspired to have that restaurant. He asked for it to be created because he went and ate at the Court of Two Sisters in the real New Orleans. And the Court of Two Sisters, man, walking in there, it felt like I was home. I was at the Blue Bayou, because you have this beautiful old building as the lobby and all of that. They had an indoor seating area, but it wasn't being used. And then they take you all the way to the back where they have this huge courtyard, and it's beautiful. There's this plant, I don't know what kind of plant it is, but it's a vine plant, and it's growing throughout the entire upper area of the courtyard to cover everybody from the sun. So the whole place is shaded by this beautiful vine that goes over everywhere with little Christmas lights, or fairy lights as you might say in the UK. And then in the center is this well where there's like the bucket has been turned into a fountain, so water flows from the bucket. But we sat by the well, which was pretty cool. We had a great server. I forget his name, but he was a nice kid. And the food at that brunch buffet was delicious. I mean, we had like a rib. They had ribeye roast that they would cut for you. They had duck à l'orange, which is duck with oranges. All kinds of soups. I had a turtle soup that was delicious. Just so much stuff. The only thing was that, like, we were still so full from breakfast. We didn't get to eat all the food at the buffet because they had Bananas Foster there, and I really wanted to have Bananas Foster, but I had no more room in my stomach. No more room. I was so sad. I was really sad. Because I would have forced that food down if I thought I could stomach it. But I couldn't. I was so full from breakfast. And breakfast was beignets. I think we had beignets almost every time we had breakfast, actually. Because it was cheap and it was delicious. We did, on the second day, eat at Café du Monde. Man, it's so hard to talk. Hello, Justin. Justin says, French Quarter is amazing. Did you enjoy the music? Absolutely. There was so much. And what's funny was I was on the lookout for a particular musician named Doreen Ketchens. She's quite famous for those who know New Orleans. She's a clarinet player, and she's one of the best clarinet players that ever lived. And she's still alive. I was on the lookout for her because she normally plays on Royal Street. Throughout the whole trip, I didn't see her until the very last, like, I kid you not, the last few minutes that we were in New Orleans before we left. She started playing on Royal Street. We were there. So we stopped and filmed, and it was the most amazing clarinet playing I'd ever heard in my life. It was fantastic. I loved that song. And we stopped afterwards. We said hello to her, and I told her I came all the way from Oregon to see her. She was really happy to hear that. So she was a very humble lady, very nice. And so that was the highlight of my trip in terms of, like, entertainment and stuff, because there, you know, everywhere you went, there were bands playing. There were, like, you know, like jazz bands and little orchestra bands and stuff like that. You know, music. The whole place was alive with music. And but Doreen was who I was there for, and I'm so glad I got to see her, even though it was like the last few minutes of our trip. Got to see her. Randy, or not Rand, sorry, I read Ryan and Andy at the same time. I came out as Randy. Ryan says, Alex, how was the weather there? Just a second. Oh, gosh. The weather was not as bad as it could have been. Firstly, to say, I had been monitoring the weather conditions in the Gulf prior to the trip because we had Hurricane Helene had just blown through, not New Orleans, but over, the southern states. And another one was forming in the Caribbean the week prior to us leaving. And I had a feeling that that would turn into a hurricane by the time we were in New Orleans. So I was constantly worried. I was like, I hope, firstly, that it didn't turn into a hurricane so that way nobody anywhere had an issue. But secondly, that, we wouldn't get stuck in New Orleans during a hurricane. As it turned out, while we were there, that storm I was tracking had turned into Hurricane Milton. And Milton bypassed Louisiana entirely and hit Florida. And from what I hear, because I didn't hear anything till after I got back in Oregon, but from what I hear, it was really devastating, really devastating. So I wanted to acknowledge that I don't take lightly that we had a great time in New Orleans while a lot of other people were being hit with, a hurricane and the weather that comes with it. So, but essentially the weather in New Orleans was clear skies every single day. The temperature on the first day was 90 degrees, but we had arrived in the late evening after the sun went down, so we didn't get the full brunt of that 90 degrees. But for the rest of the trip, it hovered around 85 degrees on most days, which is very warm for my taste. I live up here in Oregon, where 85 degree weather is really only seen 2 or 3 months out of the year, and the rest of the year it's cold. Even right now it's cold. But 85 degrees plus the 70% humidity was enough to really suck the energy out of you. Because we were doing a lot of walking. We couldn't afford to rent a car, so everything we did was on foot. And oh man, we averaged about 22,000 steps per day. That's, oh my gosh, per day. That was just incredible. Yeah, so we were, yeah. So, walking around in that weather, it would make you sweat. And because the humidity was so high, your sweat was not evaporating. So you're just sitting there sweating, and sweating on top of your sweat. And it was, whew, man. Like I said, it was not as bad as it could have been. But, for me, that was very uncomfortable. But I was so enchanted by everything that we saw, all the things that we did, and all the activities we had planned, that as hot as it was, my mind was on other things. So I'm glad about that, because if you're just sitting around in heat with nothing to do, you're just sitting there thinking only about the heat. But thankfully we had so much to do that I was not thinking about the heat. What I will say is, I've never drank so much water in my life as I did in New Orleans. I must have drank, I'm not kidding you guys, I'm not kidding, probably close to like 2 gallons or 3 gallons per day, because all I remember is I was so thirsty and so hot. I was going through bottle after bottle of water. We would constantly stop at a convenience store and get 4 giant bottles of Essentia water. And I'd go through my half real quickly. We'd have to stop again. So Justin says, how did you get so sick? I think well, my dad My dad got sick first. And I think it was because of the plane ride to New Orleans. Because there were people that were just coughing and sneezing and all kinds of stuff. Like, it was quite a few people. And I remember just being concerned. I was like, I have a feeling that, like, we're going to get sick or something. Because there were so many people coughing and sneezing. And we were stuck in that tube. You know, there was no nonstop flight from Portland to New Orleans, which meant that we had to take connecting flights. So that meant the first day we did 10 hours of traveling. 10 hours, oh my God. I've never done that much traveling in my life. We had to stop at LAX first, and then from LAX we had a layover, and then we got on another plane to go all the way to New Orleans. And it was a lot like that for the return trip, except instead of LAX, we had a flight to Atlanta. And so Atlanta was on the way back. I had no idea that just outside Atlanta was all this flooding and horrible stuff, you know, like. So, yeah, that was freaky. But yeah, so I think it was just on the plane ride to New Orleans we got sick, but we didn't know for the whole trip, you know, because we didn't have any symptoms until the end, which I'm thankful for because I didn't want to get any symptoms. But my dad got sick on the last day. It was Friday. That was the last full day. And he was like me, like he was coughing and sneezing, and he couldn't get out of bed. And so that was the day we were supposed to go to the World War II Museum, and he really wanted to see that, you know, because he's an even bigger World War II fan than I am. He really wanted to see that museum. So he had to stay in the hotel, and meanwhile I had bought an online ticket for the museum, and me, Chris, Martina, and Shiloh were going to go without my dad. But while we were walking to get breakfast at Cafe Beignet, I remember sitting there eating breakfast. My feet were killing me because I was not used to doing 22,000 steps per day as we had been doing. We had a whole week of walking, and my feet were killing me. I think I felt blisters on the bottom of my feet, and I told him, I said, you know, like, my feet are hurting me. I don't think I could do a whole day in a museum where most of it is standing. You know, you have to stand around and look at stuff and read things. And on top of that, despite having a whole week to do all this filming and stuff, there was still a lot of stuff that I needed to film that I hadn't seen yet. So I told them, that even though I had purchased a ticket, I'm not going to go to the museum either, because I had a lot of stuff to film. And so Chris, Shiloh, and Martina went without me to the World War II Museum, and I stayed behind in the French Quarter, and I walked around the French Quarter, stopping occasionally because my feet were killing me at that point, just killing me, absolutely killing me. And I would film things. So, like, I had a lot of these little thank you videos and stuff I had to film for the people who donated to my channel and stuff to help me go on the trip. So I had a lot of little things to film, and then there were, like, locations I hadn't got on camera yet. Like, I was looking for the old Absinthe House on Bourbon Street. I must have walked up and down Bourbon Street, like, 3 times that day. I kid you not. Because I couldn't find the frickin' Absinthe House. It was, like, one of the things I wanted to video so I could talk about it. And I never found it. And I had the bright idea after the third try to use Google Maps. And I was all the way by Esplanade Avenue. I used Google Maps. I said, where is the old Absinthe House? And it shows me, and it's all the way over by Canal Street. Not at Canal Street, but on the other side of the French Quarter. And I thought, I just walked up and down this street 3 times. I'm like, I'm not walking all the way down again just for the Absinthe House. So that's my dumb butt just thinking afterwards to use Google Maps instead of the first time. So anyway, I never got that video of the Absinthe House, but I did get everything else I wanted. Literally. Everything else on my list of all the things that I wanted to film and get done, I did. I accomplished it all because we had a very tight schedule, a very tight itinerary that I had planned out ahead of time. So every morning we woke up, we had things to do. We had everything planned out to the hour. So we would wake up at 8 a.m. every day, and we would have about an hour to an hour and a half to do breakfast or something, and then we'd have to start our first adventure. But the first full day we had, we got up, we went to eat breakfast, and then we went to the Natchez because we had tickets to take a cruise on the Steamboat Natchez and go all the way down the river. And the Natchez, for those that don't know, is the only real steam-powered stern-wheeled riverboat in New Orleans. All the other steamboat-looking boats in New Orleans are not steamboats. They're like diesel or something, you know. They're very modern. But the Natchez actually runs on steam. So, as steam nerds, we were very happy to be on the Natchez. And that was a really cool experience. I filmed the whole thing. I'm going to make a little video about it and all that. So that was cool. Let's see. Gotta read some comments here. Linda says, you lucked out on the storms. They have gone into NOLA in the past. Living in California, some are afraid of earthquakes, but I'd be terrified of hurricanes. Yeah, I was never afraid of earthquakes when I lived in California because I was so used to them. It was hurricanes I was afraid of as well, especially because even if the hurricane part wasn't the worst, the outer bands of the hurricane produce tornadoes, and those are scary. I was in Alabama once, near Irondale, Alabama. There was a tornado warning, and you could hear the sirens going off from Birmingham, sorry. In the South they call it Birmingham, but in England or the UK they call it Birmingham. But anyway, heard the tornado sirens going off. Scariest thing ever. Justin. Yeah, I don't like summers much either. My favorite times of year is fall and winter. Love it. Oh yeah. Raven Studios. Oregon's climate is different than New Orleans. You know, we have a lot of high humidity here, but it's usually accompanied by colder weather. So like right now we have pretty high humidity, but it's cold outside, so it actually feels more like the air is just wet, you know. But it doesn't feel hot, you know. So in New Orleans, because it was so hot and swampy, it has a different effect on your body. Joe says, I frequently get sick when I fly. Sometimes I think the air pressure changes can exacerbate symptoms too. I think so too. Yeah. That's one of the things is that's like I hate flying. Like I'm pretty sure I got sick from the people on that plane because, like I said, on the way to New Orleans, there were people that were just coughing and sneezing, and you're stuck in this tube with them for hours. I mean, yes, people will say, well, airplanes have air filtration systems. I mean, I'm sure they have some kind of air filtration system, and some kind of air exchange system. But for the most part, if anybody knows anything about ventilation in a room, is that the person sneezing next to you, you're more likely to still get their germs before the air ventilation takes it up. So that's the thing is, like, I've had arguments with people who are aviation enthusiasts. They're like, oh, you can't say that people get sick on planes because the air is filtered. It's like, yes, but if someone next to you is sneezing and coughing, you're more likely to get hit with that first before the ventilation system sucks it up. So, I mean, it's just like... Anyway, sorry. I get so frustrated sometimes. I'm frustrated because it's like I told these people, I'm like, you can get sick on planes, and then I got sick on a plane despite them thinking that doesn't happen. So anyway, yeah. Unbelievable. Aaron says, so what was your single favorite thing from the trip? Oh, man. I was asked that a lot during the trip. And so this might sound really surprising because some people would say, oh, maybe the nachos was the most favorite part of the trip, or maybe walking through the Gallier house, which was a 18th century manor, or is it 19th century? I think 19th century manor. But actually my favorite part about the trip was walking through the French Quarter. Any chance we got to walk through the French Quarter, down the streets, up and down the streets. I'm such an architecture enthusiast that my eyes were just glued upward at all the buildings. And, it was so beautiful and so pleasant. And there were so many great areas where you could stop and take a picture, and it was so beautiful. And I will say the exception is Bourbon Street. Even in the mornings when Bourbon Street is empty, you still see all the neon signs and stuff. It's pretty tacky looking. But any other street in the French Quarter, absolutely beautiful. So the reason why that makes it onto my top favorite thing in New Orleans was because, I've always wanted to see the French Quarter. Ever since my dad came back from it in 2003, he would show me pictures of the French Quarter and stuff, and I just loved it. Always wanted to see it. And so working at Disneyland as my first job, I would show up to work hours early before the park even opened, just so I could walk around the park and take a morning stroll. And I'd walk into New Orleans Square on the west side of the park. And New Orleans Square was designed to imitate a lot of the best parts of the French Quarter. And so walking around New Orleans Square in the mornings, I would just be looking up and see the beauty of all the cast iron railing and the beautiful architecture, and think, I can't wait to see the real place one day. And so I had those flashbacks walking through the French Quarter in real life, and just remembering how much I've always wanted to see it and how beautiful I thought it was. And so yeah, that was my favorite part, was just any chance we got to walk around the French Quarter, I took it. And especially on that Friday when my dad was sick and he was in the hotel, and then my friends went to the World War II Museum and I was by myself in the French Quarter. Oh, I loved it. I stopped at a little cafe I don't remember what street, but I know it was on Royal Street. Royal Street and something. And it was by an old school. There was a school there. It's not a school anymore. But there's a little cafe there on the corner. And I walked inside and I ordered some kind of sugary coffee drink. But I sat there in that cafe, people watching, because I was sitting next to these old French doors, looking out onto the Royal Street, seeing people walk up and down Royal Street and taking pictures. And oh man, I'm one of those people that just loves those calm moments where you can just sit at a cafe and people watch. And that was heaven for me, because that end of Royal Street all the way towards Esplanade is very quiet. If there are tourists there, they're tourists who are there because they're looking at the architecture, not because they're, buying drinks or whatever. So it's a very quiet neighborhood of that part of the French Quarter, and it was just beautiful. I remember looking at the French doors and seeing the little paint chips, and underneath the paint chips, you could see all the layers of paint that those doors have been painted over the years, and just the little details and things. It was beautiful. It was like I was living in history, which is a big dream of mine. So I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Justin. Oh. Wait, let me go in order here. Daniel says, I'm so happy you mentioned Coop's Place. My friend took me there on my first night. I had a mixed plate of everything so good. That's what I had. So yeah, we went to Coop's Place one of those nights, and I ordered the mixed plate of different food, and oh, it was so good. My friend Chris ordered an appetizer. They had a special. It was a special that night, and it was like lamb ribs or something like that. And oh man, that was like the best thing I've ever eaten. Oh my gosh, that was unbelievable. But yeah, Justin says, any historical subjects involving Oregon or the mountains that interest you? I think you mentioned the trains or rail lines, but I forgot anything else you might have done. I've done a video. I've done a few videos based on Oregon. I don't remember them all, but the first one that comes to mind is there was a story of a murder that happened at a ranch, and that ranch later became a public park. And so I actually went to that public park and filmed it, and did my video about the murder there. So it's a Halloween themed thing, and in fact, if you go to my channel right now, the main page, you'll see it right there on the main page. It's a good video, but not many people watched it. But I've looked at doing history on Oregon, and it's really difficult because while there are a lot of historic buildings here, most of them don't have a story that goes with it. So that's kind of the tough part, is I can't make a video about a building if it doesn't have a story. So it's just yeah. That's one of those sore spots for me, because one of the things I was so excited about moving up to Oregon for was all the history, but it's very spread out. It's very far in between. But yeah, I did make videos in Astoria. I made a vlog of going to Enchanted Forest Park. I thought about doing a video about well, now I can't remember the name of the house. Pittock Mansion. But I never got around to it because I never have been able to visit it. Just every time I get a chance to visit, it just doesn't work out. So Um, Oregon doesn't really have much for me to make videos about, unfortunately. Let's see. Barry says, "Hi Alex, was wondering if the cup and plate set behind you are from the Queen Mary herself." Yes, indeed. So normally when I do these tea time streams, I mean literally you could pick any tea time stream before this. I usually have my tea tray set up with all these original um, bone china. It's a tea set from the Queen Mary, and I actually drink tea in the teacup, and and I eat tea biscuits and things on the side. But I was just so sick today that I just didn't feel like setting all that up. I just wanted to have some simple ginger lemon tea. But this is part of the collection that I don't use, only because I don't really need it. But I keep it because it's part of my collection. But I have the teacup and its saucer. Then there's a little a little cake plate, and then beneath that is a cake plate for, I want to say second or third class, but some people would tell me this was also for first class as well. But you can see that there's clearly a difference. This one's bone china, and this one is just basically porcelain. But I've never been able to figure out, because people tell me that the porcelain one was also used in first class, so maybe it was used in the staterooms, because I know that but the stateroom cabins had their own tea set. It was a regular white porcelain tea set, not even bone china. And it had an oatmeal finish. So I don't know. It's kind of always been a little mystery to me. I have a lot of stuff back here. One of my favorite things is this tin for Walker's shortbreads, and it's got a portrait of Queen Elizabeth II on it. I bought this soon after she died because it was a special. They were selling it. And speaking of that, I had a friend. Excuse me. I had a friend who was going through some boxes, and he found that his parents, had a commemoration plate from Queen Elizabeth II's coronation. And of course he didn't want it. He knew that I'm a fan of Queen Elizabeth II, so he says, "Do you want this coronation plate?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll take it." So eventually I'll receive that too. Hello, little gamer. Justin says, "I love cafe trips, especially when I'm helping to support a historic business by going to that business and sharing my feelings and reporting on the architecture myself." Yep, absolutely. That was a magical experience for me. My whole trip in New Orleans was so amazing. I mean, I have no regrets about going there. I have, I had a bad time at that hotel, but we were mostly outside, outside for all the waking hours of the day. So, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, we were outside for most of the waking hours of the day, so it's not like I had to stay in that hotel room all day long and deal with it, you know. But yeah, it's. I left that hotel a pretty poor review because they had told me twice through our stay that they would give us discounts because of the fact that there was false advertising on their website, and because they had no hot water, and because their air conditioner was sputtering water all over the floor. But then they never gave us our discounts or anything. They charged us full price for everything, plus an extra $100 for something that they couldn't describe. They called it a holding fee. I said, is that like a holding fee for when we pay the money? Because we just paid. They're like, no, that's not what it's for. What's it for? Oh, well, it's just, it's a holding fee. We're like, why? We're here. Like, I paid a down payment on the room because they require you, if you book the room ahead of time, they require you to pay a down payment on the room. And the down payment for me was like $240 or something like that. So I paid them $240 a week. No, a couple of months ahead of time, actually. I don't know why I said a week. A couple of months ahead of time, I gave them a $240 down payment on the room, and that's supposed to reserve the room. The idea is that if you cancel, they'll keep that money, So when we get there and we pay for it, and they say, oh, by the way, it includes a $100 holding fee, and they couldn't describe what a holding fee was. I mean, come on, doesn't that sound a bit, dishonest, Like, that was weird. So... So let's answer Jeffrey's question real quick, and I'll circle back around to Mark's. But to Jeffrey's question, sorry if you already talked about this, but when do you think you'll have your first New Orleans video out? Well, in order to do the first video, the first vlog, I need to be able to talk in front of a camera like this to describe what happened that day. Because what I did a different type of thing this time, where I basically filmed the whole place with minimal commentary because I wanted to be able to edit all of it much better in post-production and to be able to add and delete scenes without deleting information. So the idea was that I would talk in front of a camera like this in retrospect and then describe what our days were like. But I need to be able to talk. And with all the coughing, stuffy nose, my inability to breathe, I was thinking that I would do it today. That I would film the first thing today. I'll put this down here. Because literally what I was going to do was do this live stream, and then afterwards I was going to talk to the camera and do this whole thing. But you've seen how I am during this live stream. It's not a pretty sight. I don't think I can do the video today. So I'm going to wait until I can talk to the camera. I don't know when that'll be, because I've been sick for exactly 7 days now. And I was hoping I would be much better by now. I mean, I am. I mean, I'm not bedridden like I was. And I don't have a headache anymore, except for whatever coughing creates a headache. But I am just coughing a lot, and it's hard to breathe without coughing. So yeah, I'm gonna wait a little bit. I don't know when that'll be, but I want to do it as soon as possible because I haven't earned any money this month from YouTube, and I need to make some money this month, and those videos will make me money. So yeah, I definitely have an incentive to get it done as soon as possible. But also, I have a lot of stuff to do because there's thank you videos I have to put out. I have a bunch of stuff, like albums, like photo albums. Now that's something I've been doing because it doesn't require me to be in front of a camera. So what we've been doing is we've been editing the photos in the photo album to look a bit nicer, something more presentable. So it's just like, you know, color grading and things like that. And then I'm gonna put all that together, and then those photo albums along with like the wallpapers and stuff for people's phones and computers, that'll go out to the people that donated, as well as to the channel members of this channel. So that's something that can be done without me needing to be in front of a camera. But yeah, doing the first video, I need to be able to breathe and to talk to the camera. Mark says, "Hey Alex, I'm sorry you're not well. Fantastic to see you though. What happened at the hotel?" Well, at the beginning of the live stream, I mentioned that we booked the suite. Me, my dad, and Chris, we booked the suite at the hotel because it advertised 3 different beds. It advertised a queen-size bed in the main room. It advertised a sofa bed in the living room and a twin bed in the petite room. So we were going to give my dad the main bed for his back. Chris was going to take the sofa bed, and then I was going to take the twin bed. But when we got there, we found out they didn't have a twin bed, even though it was listed on the website. So I had to sleep on the floor the whole trip. I was upset because we went to the office and I said, well, if you don't have an extra bed, can you get the maintenance guy to bring like a rollaway bed or something? And the guy said, we don't have a maintenance guy. I thought, that's weird. You know, I'm a former maintenance technician for Hilton Hotels, so hearing that a hotel doesn't have a maintenance guy is weird. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to have to sleep on the floor, so can you give me some extra pillows and blankets? You know, and I said, and we need extra pillows and blankets as well because the sofa bed is not made up. So Chris needs pillows and blankets for his sofa bed. And I said we also need towels because there's only 2 towels in the bathroom for drying off after a shower, and there's 3 of us. I said, so I need at least 1 extra towel. And the guy, Gary, he said, oh, well, we don't have anything extra like that. We don't have any extra blankets, any extra pillows, and I literally, let me tell you guys, I've worked in hotels before. In a hotel, there are some key things you need. Baseline. Always on hand without any excuse. You can never run out of pillows. You can never run out of blankets. And you can never run out of hot water. Those are the basic things for any hotel. If you fail at any one of those things, you fail as a hotel. So I literally almost looked at this guy and was like, how do you not have any extra pillows and blankets? Particularly because the hotel was not fully booked. I know because when we got there at 8 p.m. at night. And the hotel, all the rooms they didn't have their curtains drawn. So you could look into the room and you could see they were vacant when we arrived. So it's not like they were full up and they had used up all the extra pillows and stuff like that. Like, they just weren't willing to give us anything extra. And then, not 5 minutes later, a maintenance guy walks in and he overhears this and he goes, oh, well, we have extra pillows and blankets and towels. And first of all, Gary lied to us because he said they didn't have a maintenance guy. There he was. And then, not only that, he lied to us by saying he didn't have any extra pillows, blankets, and towels. And here the maintenance guy goes into the into the storage room right next to us, not even 5 feet from us, and gets us some extra pillows, blankets, and towels. They didn't have enough to make us extra comfortable, but they gave us what the guy said they had. So I don't appreciate being lied to when I go to a hotel. You know, I'm a very accommodating person. As a former hotel worker, I know that sometimes things go wrong. But this was ridiculous because we went to the room to set up everything. I set up my bed on the floor. I kid you not, right on the hardwood. And I only have this little comfort. It's fluffy, but it's not like fluffy. It's just, as soon as you lay on the floor, you're laying straight on the wood. It's just hard. And there was no carpets or anything. It was a hardwood floor, which I like hardwood floors. It was clean. It was a clean room. But because there was no cushion at all, I was laying directly on hardwood. I went to take a shower because I was so sweaty and exhausted. And I'm running the shower, waiting for it to get hot. And so I'm like, okay, well, it's not getting hot, so I'm just going to go, like, finish setting up for bed. Finish setting up for bed, come back into the room, test the shower. It's still not hot. I'm like, what the heck? So I run the hot water in the sink. And I'm waiting, feeling my hand underneath the hot water in the sink. No hot water. No hot water whatsoever. I had to take a shower, a freezing cold shower. It was surprisingly cold for being, the tap in New Orleans during a heat wave or whatever. Surprisingly cold. And the next morning I got up and I went to talk to the people at the front desk. And I told the lady, I said, there's no hot water in the room. And I told her, I said, look, I know it's an old building. It's 200 years old. I expect that it would take a while for the water to get hot. I said, but I waited for what seemed like 15 minutes. I said the water never got hot, and I ended up taking a cold shower. The lever for the tap on the shower was all the way over to hot through the entire shower I took, and no hot water came out. So she said she'd have maintenance go look at it, and indeed they did. The maintenance guy ended up telling me that they needed to order a part that they didn't expect would come in until after we left. So he assured me, he says, I'll talk to management, we'll get you a discount on the room for the fact that there's no petite bed that we have listed on the website that, because I had to sleep on the floor. And for the fact that there's no hot water in the bathroom. And furthermore, not only is there no hot water in the bathroom, there's no mirror in the bathroom. So if you wanted to shave, because it's 3 of us men in that suite, me, Chris, and my dad, so we need to shave to look nice, there's no mirror in the bathroom. And so, my dad had to keep walking out into the living room to the mirror there to shave and then go back, rinse out his razor blade. Not razor blade, what do you call it? Razor. Shaving razor. So Mark says, I never heard of such blatant incompetence. Right? That's what I put on the review. I never put bad reviews for places because I'm the kind of person where I'm annoyingly positive about something. I'm able to look at something and go, oh, well, at least I still have this. To the point where I drive people mad with it sometimes. But I was really upset about this hotel because we paid $1,500, $1,500, plus $100 for a holding fee that they could not tell me what the holding fee was. He didn't know the definition either. He says, I don't know. It's something we charge. I said, it sounds like a money grab to me. So, $1,600 for that room. no hot water, no bed. And they didn't give us the refund or the discount that they promised. They said they would give us a partial refund, and then they said give us a discount or whatever. Never gave it to us. Charged us full price. So, yeah. I'd like to think I have a good reason for being upset about that room. Aaron says they should have comped the room for you. They should be out of business. Yes, they should have comped the room. You know. So yeah, you know, like I said, you know, it wouldn't have been so bad if it had labeled on the website that there was no twin bed in the petite room. You know, if it had said that there were just 2 beds, we would have been prepared for that, you know. But we got that room because it was the only room in the French Quarter, I kid you not, in that whole 1 square mile of historic district. It was the only hotel that advertised 3 beds in 1 room. And we got it because it was me, my dad, and Chris, and we needed 3 beds. So, yeah, I'm pretty upset about that. Mark says, you're killing me with this horrible story. I was a travel agent in a previous career. Never have I heard such an experience from clients. Never. Right? It was unbelievable. And that guy, that Gary guy I told you that you know, he's the one that said, oh, we don't have a maintenance guy, and then there was a maintenance guy, and then he said, oh, we don't have pillows and blankets, and oh, the maintenance guy brought out pillows and blankets. That Gary guy, soon after we signed into our hotel room, Shiloh and his mom arrive in New Orleans to get their room at the hotel, and the Gary guy charges them the $100 fee as well. You'd think that for their room being significantly smaller, that they wouldn't be charged a $100 fee like we were, but they charged them the $100 fee. Guy took them to their room, which, so this isn't a complaint, this part of the thing. The hotel is a cluster of buildings, so the company bought all these old houses and townhomes and converted them into a hotel. So our hotel room was across the street in a cottage with slave quarters in the back. So there were slave quarters. It's a separate structure from the house, and slave quarters in the back. And those slave quarters were converted to mini rooms. And one of those mini rooms is where Shiloh and his mom were. And meanwhile, our suite was in the main house on the 2nd floor. So that's not a complaint. But the complaint comes in that, so they were taken to their room, Shiloh and Martina, and the guy showed them their room and then said goodnight, and then he walked away. That's when Shiloh and Martina realized he never gave them their room key, so they had to walk back to the building, and the guy was on a smoke break in the back of his building, so he didn't hear them at the front of the thing knocking. And so it was like, they're out there in New Orleans in the middle of the night waiting for him to answer the front door because they didn't give him the room keys. Unbelievable. So, see, I like to think I'm not the kind of person that complains over stuff, but that was I feel like that did take the cake. So, oh, you're welcome, Justin. So, some interesting things about the hotel room. Some good stuff. It was a beautiful old room. Very simple. There wasn't too much furniture, but I don't mind about that at all because it made the room feel bigger, not having so much furniture to clutter up the space. But it was clean. You could tell it had been recently refreshed, freshly painted walls. The floor was original, heart of pine, and it was very well waxed, very shiny and clean. And the bed that my dad slept in was clean bedding. No sense that there were bed bugs or anything like that. Very clean. And the interesting thing was that our room, the building, I don't want to say building because it makes you imagine a big building, but it's not. It's a cottage, and we had 1/4 of the cottage to ourselves. But right next door to the cottage is the original location of Marie Laveau's home. So, for those that don't know Marie Laveau was the voodoo queen of New Orleans. She lived from about the early 1800s. I wanted to say 1820s, but she might be older than that. Early 1800s through to 1880s is when she lived. And she was just as much loved as she was feared. Some people say that she could put curses on people, when you asked her. But at the same time, she could bring good fortune on people who needed it. And her original home was located directly next to our cottage. And her original home burned down just before the 1900s. So the home that exists there currently is from like 1901 or something like that. But it's sitting on the original spot. And in fact, our cottage was labeled the Marie Laveau Apartments. Our suite was called the Christophe Suite, which is named after Marie Laveau's second husband. And being that it was a 200-year-old house with slave quarters in the back, because Shiloh and Martina, they slept in one of the slave quarters, and I went in there. In terms of a decorated room, it was nice, but it was very, very small. They expected there to be 2 beds, but there was only one. But they made do with it. But it was a very small room, and and it gives you a good idea that slave quarters used to be an apartment for a family of slaves. Just that one room. So it was interesting, and you'd expect that the place would be incredibly haunted, right? Because if it wasn't, for the rich families that lived in the cottage, and then the slaves that lived out back, I mean, you'd think that at some point over 200 years there would be ghosts or something. So we expected it to be very haunted. But oddly enough, I mean, even though I'm a believer in ghosts and stuff, it wasn't haunted. None of it. I mean, not our room and not Shiloh's room. So, that was interesting. We were just really expecting a ghost. And then, of course, being next to Marie Laveau's original house, I mean, like, literally right across the fence from it, we were just expecting something. We did, on the last night, me, Chris, Shiloh, and Martina were sitting out in the courtyard. They had this beautiful courtyard, by the way. I don't know if you know, but these old Creole cottages in New Orleans, every house had a courtyard in the back. And this courtyard was beautiful. There was a fountain and bamboo shoots. And it was beautiful. And climbing vines and things. But we could see into the back window of the Marie Laveau house. And we could swear we saw a figure standing there. We could swear we saw one. It felt like we were being watched. But that's about it. Daniel Leatherdale says, most hotels I stayed at charge a $100 holding fee. Usually they give it back and don't charge you. It's a security deposit in case anyone trashes the room. Oh, that's crazy. I've heard of a security deposit because, you know, that's weird. Well, I wish he would have said that, you know. But we didn't get that $100 back. So, Linda says, we used to stay in historic hotels, but choose more modern hotels now, as my old bones need more support. We can visit plenty of historic places without sacrificing a good night's sleep. Yeah, you know, this hotel, you know, like I said earlier, we chose it because well, I chose it because I wanted to stay in a really old building. You know, not only am I an American and we don't have that many old buildings in the United States, but, you know, like, I've never been in a, like, or never stayed overnight in a building that was more than 70 years old. So I really wanted to see what it was like to stay in a building that was so old that that they even had slaves out back, you know, like this is old, you know. And so I wanted to just see what it was like, and the hotel was really highly rated, and it was considered a 3-star hotel. So I was like, okay, this sounds great. But yeah, it turned out not to be worth the money. So I think next time if I go to New Orleans, I'm gonna spend the extra money and just get like a room in a more established hotel. Like, for instance, one of the hotels I wanted to stay at, but they didn't have a room open, was Place d'Armes. And Place d'Armes is right there next to Jackson Square. It's a lot like the hotel we stayed at. It's a cluster of buildings that the hotel purchased and converted them into hotel rooms. But this hotel is much more established. I even want to say that they have a parent company. So it's much more, you know, like, it's the kind of hotel where every morning a cleaning lady comes by with her cart kind of thing. And the hotel we stayed at wasn't like that. It was like they had someone come by to change the towels in our bathroom, but that was it. They didn't do any cleaning. So, so yeah, this was a much more, so Place d'Armes is a much more established hotel. If I do go to New Orleans, then again, the next time I'm going to try to stay at Place d'Armes. I'll book it much earlier than I did this time. And if that doesn't work, I'll stay at a different hotel, like a new one. Like, they have a few buildings in the French Quarter that look old, but they're actually, you know, no older than the 1960s. And they're brand new hotels, essentially, in comparison. So I'll probably stay at a more established hotel next time. But I wanted to stay at this little mom and pop kind of place because it seemed really cool. Plus, when we found out that Marie Laveau's house was next door, it was like, wow, that's really cool, you know. But I will say one positive thing about the hotel, which is that the hotel we stayed at was all the way on St. Anne and Burgundy Street. which is far away from the noise and hustle and bustle of the main artery of the French Quarter, which is Bourbon Street. So we were far away from all the noise, so we had very quiet nights. You could walk down Burgundy Street at night without worrying about homeless people or whatever, because Burgundy Street is very much like a... It's really interesting, the French Quarter. You could be walking down Burgundy Street, which is a residential neighborhood, and all you see is like houses that people own, and then you turn the corner onto, like, let's say, I don't know, Orland Street, and go 2 blocks, and the next thing you know, you're in the hustle and bustle of the town. You know, there's these little pockets of the French Quarter that are so quiet and peaceful, so quiet you could hear the birds singing. And then you round the corner, like on Barracks Street and Bourbon. The cross street of Barracks and Bourbon. Barracks is a very quiet street. Just like I described, you could hear the birds singing. And then you turn the corner onto Bourbon, and not a block away is the Lafitte's Tavern, which is like the first major bar you're going to find along Bourbon Street from that side. And you hear the loud music, you know. And so it's like the weirdest thing, like, you know. And then, like, for instance, here's another, like, weird thing. We're walking along St. Peter. Or is it Decatur? Decatur. Decatur and Governor Nichols Street, I want to say. And it's like the poorer part of the French Quarter. There's homeless people everywhere, and they're all sleeping on the sidewalks and stuff. One of them was cursing at me, like calling me all kinds of profanity names. Just ignore him. And like, you turn the corner onto Decatur, and next thing you know, there's this beautiful little quaint town center not 10 feet away from the area where there's all homeless people and stuff. And so you're in this little cute area lined with trees, and there's little antique shops on either side of the road, and there's tourists, and you're like, that's weird, like 10 feet that way is like this horrible area, and then next thing you know, you're in this like beautiful little part of the French Quarter. It's so bizarre. It's so bizarre. Hello, Jay. How's it going? Anyway, but we really enjoyed the French Quarter, and I really hope that I can get my first vlogs out soon so you guys can see, because it was so cool. But I have to, as you can see, like, I'm not doing well. I can barely talk. I'm coughing a lot. But yeah, as soon as I can properly talk to the camera, I'll record the background, because I have to like stitch it all together with like a retelling of what happened. And then like I'll stitch it together into a vlog and put that out. So yeah. But I think I'll end the live stream now. But it was good to see you all, and I wanted to just get on a live stream to show you guys like I'm still alive, and kind of explain why I haven't been on YouTube for a little bit. I've just been so sick this past week, and I'm getting much better, but I still have a persistent cough. So, so yeah. But anyway, folks, I gotta send Chris to the Queen Mary soon to film some new things. There's been a lot of repairs and updates happening lately, and I feel like there's some big news I want to share, but I gotta get permission to share it. And, oh my gosh, so So we'll do a Queen Mary update in the coming weeks. Thanks, Aaron. Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, folks, anyway, I'll talk to you all later. Bye, everyone.